Thank you for purchasing the Lucidium dog pen. This video will cover unboxing and assembly of your pen as well as use and care instructions. To avoid damage to your pen, please do not use razor blades or utility knives. Open the box in the top flaps by either pulling it open or gently prying out the staples with a screwdriver. Remove the brown packing paper. Inside the box, you'll see a bundle of acrylic panels with foam corner protection, the door assembly, and the rest of the parts. Carefully lay the box down so the acrylic bundle is on the bottom. Slide the component parts out first, then the door, and finally the acrylic bundle. Watch out for any staples in the box flaps. Be careful not to scratch yourself or the pen parts. Carefully check all the packaging material to make sure no parts were left behind. Inside the cardboard sleeves, you'll find two groups of aluminum tubes. The larger bundle contains the cross tubes. These are the horizontal tubes of the pen and are shorter than the tubes in the other group. The longer tubes are the vertical tubes. Don't unwrap all these just yet. You will also find bags of connectors. Small pens have 2 bags, medium pens have 3, and large pens have 4 bags. Let's get things ready to assemble. Start by unwrapping the acrylic wall panels. Remove the film and corner protectors, then slide the panels out of the cardboard sleeve. Each panel has film masking on both sides. Your masking may be white like shown here, or a different color. Look for a corner that's been slightly peeled back. Use this as a starting point to begin peeling the masking off the panel. It's important not to flex the panels too much when doing this. Hold the part of the panel you have already peeled and pull the rest of the masking away from where you're holding it. Just pull a little bit at a time. When you have a panel peeled, lean it against a wall out of the way. They are crystal clear and it's easy to bump into them or step on them if left in your immediate work area. Remove the user guide and panel screws from the Ziploc bag. Next, remove the door assembly from the bubble wrap pouch. The door connections are not fully tight until the rest of the pen is connected, so try to keep it near the floor when removing the packaging. There's plastic film wrapped around the door assembly from top to bottom. Leave this in place while assembling the pen. Once unwrapped, carefully lay the door down on the floor with the latch knobs down. You may want to do this on a carpet, blanket, or towel to protect the finish on the knobs. Unwrap the bundle of cross tubes. These are the shorter tubes, and they all have only one slot in them. Insert the first tube into the connector on the side of the door with the hinges. Align the slot in the tube with the slot in the connector. Insert the second cross tube into the other connector on the hinge side of the door. Again, align the slot in the tube with the slot in the connector. Get your first wall panel and align it with the slots in the 2 cross tubes. Notice that the wall panels are not square, so it only fits one way. Slide the panel down gently so it stays in the cross tube slots, goes into the connector slots, and finally into the slot along the whole length of the hinge tube. If installed completely, the panel will extend about 1/4 inch past the cross tubes. If it doesn't look right, make sure that the panel is all the way into the hinge tube slot. Now it's time to get the panel screws out. The panel screws are sets of male and female screws. The female side has a hex hole in it. You will insert this from the inside of the pen. The screw will go through the hole in the connector and the hole in the acrylic. If these holes are not lined up, do not force the screw. Just move the acrylic panel around slightly to get the holes aligned. The pen will have a cleaner look if you put all the female screws on the inside and the smooth male screws on the outside. At this point, you only need to get the screws finger tight. Don't use the Allen wrench yet. Once the first 2 panel screws are installed, tip the assembly up so the walls are vertical. Note that the door has a top and a bottom. Our logo sticker is near the top hinge. Now it's time to get the vertical tubes ready. Unwrap the vertical tube bundle and remove the protective sleeves. Also open the bags of connectors and sort them out. There are corner connectors and wall connectors. Find a wall tube. These tubes have two slots 180 degrees apart. Insert the wall tube into a wall connector, aligning the slots in the tube with the slots in the connector. Put a wall connector on each end of the wall tube. Next, find a corner tube. These have two slots, 90 degrees apart. Insert the corner tube into a corner connector, again aligning the slots in the tube with the slots in the connector. There is only one hole in the corner connector that will allow both sides to be aligned. Put a corner connector on each end of the corner tubes. Repeat this for all vertical tubes so they are all pre-assembled. The number you have will depend on the size of the pen you're building. Take a vertical tube assembly, in this case a wall tube assembly, and guide the lower connector onto the lower cross tube. You'll need to lift the cross tube off the floor just slightly to get the connector over it. Once the connector is started onto the tube, align the upper connector and slide it onto the upper cross tube. Push the whole vertical tube assembly onto the pen assembly. Twist the vertical tube if necessary to allow the wall panel to go into the slot of the vertical tube. Install two more panel screws like you did a minute ago. Remember not to force the screws. Jiggle the acrylic panel slightly to get the holes aligned. It's usually easier to get the top screw set in first and then the bottom one. Tighten finger tight only. Take another cross tube and insert it into the bottom wall connector. As always, align the slot in the tube with the slot in the connector. Get another wall panel and set it into the slot of the cross tube you just installed. Slide it toward the vertical tube and into the slot. Install the top cross tube onto the top of the wall panel and slide it into the top wall connector. Install two more panel screws. Now the process repeats over and over until you work your way around the pen. We'll speed up the video here to move quickly to the last connections. You may be tempted to try to assemble the parts without the screws and put them all in last, but this will make things harder. Connections will come loose and the assembly will start coming apart as you work on it. Keep installing two panel screws at a time as you add components. When you have worked your way all the way around to the last connection at the door assembly, it's time to pull off the film from around the door. Open the two latches and open the door panel a little. This will make it easier to get the last connections inserted and put in the last two screws. Grab the Allen wrench. It's time to tighten all the screws. Start where you began assembly at the hinge side of the door. Put the long end of the wrench into the hex hole and tighten each screw. If the screw set keeps spinning while you're trying to tighten it, reach around and hold the male side of the screw with your fingertip. Using the long end of the wrench will prevent you from over-tightening the screws and helps avoid scratching the acrylic with the wrench when working in the corners. It's a good idea to make sure the 4 screws in the door assembly are tight too. They may have loosened during shipping. Now your assembly is complete. Now I'll demonstrate how the walk-through door works. Open the door panel by releasing the 2 latches. Slide the 2 locking sleeves at the top of the door toward each other. Pop the swing arm catch open with your thumb. Push the top tube away from you and down. Now you can easily walk into the pen to do whatever you need to do. To close the swing arm, swing it back up and snap the catch together. Then slide the locking sleeves back apart. Close the door panel and be sure that the tab on the latch cam goes into the slot on the tube. Always close the top and bottom latch. Keep the swing arm up and locked at all times when you aren't accessing the pen. If left down, the door assembly may open accidentally, or your pet may chew on the catch at the end of the swing arm. Also, the door panel will not close properly with the swing arm down. The assembled pen is fairly rigid and can be lifted and moved as needed. The small and medium pens can be moved by one person, but use 2 people to lift a large pen or a pen with any expansion kits attached. Always make sure the swing arm is closed and locked and the door panel is closed and latched before moving the pen. To clean the acrylic, do not use Windex or other ammonia-based glass cleaners. We recommend using a soft, lint-free cloth and a mixture of 1 part vinegar and 4 parts water. Please be sure to read the user guide provided with your pen for additional tips and safety information. If you have any questions about your Lucidium pen or need parts, please contact us from our website.